Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, short for Tim to fur, is Tim.
Wasn't as good as the first one, but I'll give it to you.
Are you revealing there was a take one of the introduction that wasn't recording? Is that what you're admitting to the audience? How dare you?
I'm just trying to get a little meta this episode.
One day, Tim, we're going to review a horror movie about two guys who do a podcast, and then we can really get meta with the jokes.
Oh yeah.
But until that day, we are here. We are here on
the
this
Unfriended 3.
We're here. Unfriended. What that could almost be a title for this podcast in a lot of ways. But yes, this is a horror movie podcast. We get together to talk about horror movies, and we're here today to sort of finish what I consider to be the original set of movies in a franchise. We're not quite done with it yet because we've got a crossover still in the remake, but we're here today to talk about Wes.
TV show.
We're not doing a TV show. Shut up. We're here today to talk. Anytime I even imply that we should do more stuff, you have this look of horror in your face. Like, you're going to make me do more work? And yet, the one time I say we're not doing something, Tim's like, oh, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We're here today to talk about Wes Craven's New Nightmare, the 7th film in the Elm Street series, the meta one where it's Freddy Krueger going after the actors who played the characters in the original film. Heather Langenkamp played Nancy specifically. She plays herself. Wes Craven plays himself for a scene or two. Even Bob Shea, the head of New Line, pops in for a role. So super meta. We'll start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we go into spoilers. That was a much quicker intro than the first time, just because I can't fake all the random nonsense we had the first time. So Tim, I will go straight to it. I'll just we've seen it a bunch of times before. How did you feel once again watching Wes Craven's New Nightmare?
Oh, I absolutely love it. This one has a lot of nostalgia for me. I remember, I think seeing it first at a sleepover at a friend's house, and I don't remember how old I was, but I feel like it must have been like too young to see it. But I just remember it really, sticking out to me as being like something kind of, special and unique. And I've said it before. I'm big. Fred Head. I love the Nightmare series. That's kind of like my go-to, horror franchise. And you look upset about Fred Head.
Is it? I mean, I'm a little upset about Fred Head. I'm always a little upset about Fred Head. But so you say this is your go-to. I mean, are you telling me you like this more than Leprechaun? Is that what you're saying to me?
I mean, they're two different, sides of the coin.
The gold coin.
Yeah. Usually, I do like the variety. With Leprechaun, because sometimes, if you do want something a little more sci-fi or, I guess, like hood based, I guess, Leprechaun is
or gambling, or even like cheap tourist industry. Leprechaun's covered many a topic over its franchise.
And they're very similar in a lot of ways. Freddy and the Leprechaun. It's a shame they never got to meet on the battlefield, but maybe someday. Who knows? But no, I love Nightmare on Elm Street, and I think I also like I like stuff that gets meta. Especially when you're talking about kind of like movie or comic book stuff, kind of like bleeding into the real world. I always really like those stories a lot. So this one in particular, I think the story itself, I think is like 10 out of 10. Like, I love it. I love the idea behind it. I think, unfortunately, the movie's not perfect. Like, there is some stuff that feels a little dated, and like some stuff, like some of the actors aren't always great. No offense, Bob Shea, but yeah. But there's like some like pretty dodgy special effects and stuff looking back at it now, and honestly, I think the there probably could be like a little bit more gore and some kills and stuff in it. Like, so it's the movie as a whole, I really like, but I wouldn't say it's perfect, but I think it's just such a cool idea that they did with this. I can't really think of like any other movie that kind of does something along these lines, or at least like something for like a long running like horror franchise or something like that.
I'm sure there's other meta examples we could think of if we really try.
Well, like, but I mean, like stuff like because obviously, people will say like, oh, well, Scream is also a meta horror movie, and it's like, yeah, but it's not this type of meta though, where again, you have an existing property that you're looking at through this kind of different lens, and that you have like actual characters, from it appearing and kind of like playing like dual roles and that kind of stuff. So like, in terms of that, like, yeah, I can't really think of too much else on. I'm sure there are examples, but I don't know. It always feels pretty unique to me in terms of kind of like cool horror ideas and stuff.
I'm sure there probably is other examples of like the meeting, like the creator or the director ends up in the movie or something, or
Sure.
I'm sure there is examples of that, but yeah.
Well, you know what? I did just watch a Jane Silent Bob reboot, and they do meet Kevin Smith in that. So I guess it's not totally unique, but
yeah, and I'm pretty sure Grant Morrison did a thing or two like that in his comics at some point.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, this is total Animal Man territory. But, yeah.
Very Grant Morrison. I have to admit, Tim,
I'm surprised he didn't make an appearance in Doom Patrol. I know they mention him,
yeah.
but he doesn't actually show up.
They mentioned him. Now, I have to admit, Tim, I'm actually a lot more lukewarm on this, especially after watching it again. I always liked 1 and 3 more. 1 and 3 were always more to my taste, I think,
Sure.
than this movie. But after watching it again, like, I would probably put 4 above it, and maybe even 2. Like, it's better than 6, 5 and 6.
Sure.
I'm giving it that, because it's
Right.
not a bad movie, I don't think, but
Sure.
it's definitely like, I feel like it rushes a lot of its premise. Like, one of the things I was shocked by watching it again is just right from the start of the movie, like Nancy, Heather Langenkamp is immediately kind of like on edge. Like, she's or like as soon as the movie starts, she wakes up from a nightmare and she's already kind of acting like Nancy. It kind of caught me off guard. Like, I almost wish it was a bit more grounded and felt more like the real world, at least to a point. Obviously, once stuff starts getting weirder and weirder, sure, go nuts with it. But I almost felt like the tone it felt like it was a Nightmare on Elm Street movie from the start, and I didn't want it to. Started feeling like it's in the real world. Started feeling like it's the tone's almost too Nightmare on Elm Street from too early on. Watching it again, but I mean, maybe that's.
Yeah, there's like it kind of feels like you're dropped. Like not like halfway through, but like the story's already started, because you hear people talking about this stuff like nightmares and these phone calls that she's been getting, and it's like you kind of get the idea that this has been going on for a while now, which yeah, it's, I don't know, it doesn't really bother me that much, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I guess the appeal to me is like the whole appeal for this movie to me is that Freddy Krueger's going to go after Heather Langenkamp, the actress who played Nancy, right? That is a great idea. And I feel like, for me, the appeal of that is like, we'll start it off in a place where no one would ever believe that Freddy Krueger's real, because he's a movie character. No one would ever even consider it. So I feel like she very quickly, as soon as stuff starts happening, is like, not that she's ready to jump and say Freddy Krueger's after me and it's all real now, but like she's very quickly like acting out or being really creeped out by certain little things that are Freddy-esque. I don't know. It's just like it comes across it's a lot more cheesier than I remembered it being. Like right from the get go.
I don't know. It doesn't really feel cheesy to me. Like, well, some stuff later on, but like I don't know. I never really had too much of a problem like with the beginning part of it.
I mean, the stuff at the start I do like. I do like some of this the addressing of like the context of the world in terms of Nightmare on Elm Street, and referring to the fact that there's been 6 movies, that Freddy was technically killed off in the 6th one, and having her on the chat show and having Robert Englund show up, both like sort of in character as Freddy, but then also just as Robert Englund. And it's funny because obviously you have actors playing themselves. They're typically pretty good at it because they're actors anyway. But then you have Wes Craven and Bob Shaye and so on playing roles. What's interesting though, Lynn Shay has a cameo, not as herself though, not as Lynn Shay. She's got a cameo as a nurse at one point.
Yeah,
which
that brought into like some weird like meta questions. I'm like, all right, so wait a minute, does she not? Like, does Bob Shaye not have a sister in the universe of this movie, or I don't know.
Yeah, she looks a lot more like Lynn Shay that we think of though in this movie versus in the original.
Oh yeah, totally.
You know, she looks a lot more like Insidious and shit. Don't get me wrong, it's still like 20 years apart. She's still much younger, but maybe it's just her haircut. She changed to the old lady hair in between those movies, and that's just what makes her look like modern Lynn shape. But so no, I kind of had a problem with that, and I did feel like when for some reason I think in my memory I always remembered Freddy being a lot more menacing in this movie, and maybe it's just because the poster is a lot more menacing looking on the poster, but once he shows up and starts dropping one-liners, it kind of felt like he's still kind of just Freddy. Like he's not like particularly more intimidating or darker than I mean, sure, he's not as constantly jokey as the last few movies. Don't get me wrong. There's a difference there, but I didn't feel like he was. I felt like he was still almost more comical than he was in the first movie, though.
I don't know. I don't know. Like honestly, I can't really remember too many like jokes and stuff. Like he might be dropping like a bitch here and there, but like like I don't know. It doesn't really come across as like too comical to me. I will say the. I guess it's kind of cool that they're going for a different look for him, but I don't think it really aged that well. Like I don't think it looks
the big coat.
Well, just like his like kind of like skin and like the bone claws kind of thing, like with his hand. Like I don't know. It's it doesn't really look as good as I think like classic Freddy does. Yeah,
that's fair. Because I think the first time he jumps out at her properly, which is a good like halfway or so through the movie. He says like, "Guess who's back?" So it felt kind of like full cheesy Freddy, despite the fact that we're playing it a lot more like, is he real or isn't he? And maybe that's something that would have made the movie work even better for me. Is like we could really sort of question the idea, like, is there really a Freddy thing going on? Like, is that actually happening, or is she just going crazy? Because there's a point in the movie where like some of the people in the hospital think she might just be crazy or she's on drugs or something. And I'm like, I mean, you could have played more with that almost. You could have played more with her like doubting herself and not being sure if she's crazy. Because you would think you were crazy if you were even considering that Freddy Krueger was becoming real and that he was actually coming after people.
Sure.
But like, yeah. So I mean, I don't dislike the movie, but I don't. It's not as good as I think its reputation suggests it is. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's a little overrated.
I don't know, I feel like I don't know if I hear a ton of people saying like they love this movie. Like I don't know, I feel like or at least maybe it's not from people that like have seen it recently, because I feel like people that I see maybe that have talked about it recently kind of have similar feelings, but I don't know, it still holds up for me. Like and again, though, I acknowledge it that it has flaws.
Yeah,
like it's not a a perfect movie, like unfortunately.
Speaking, is that how you come out of every movie? It's like, well, it was really good, but it wasn't perfect, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
I mean, how many movies are actually, would you say, perfect? I mean, it can't be that many.
Like 23.
23. Are all 6 Leprechaun movies in there? Well, I say all 6, all of the original 6.
Oh yeah, the OG ones, of course. Sorry, they make up a good chunk of it.
6 Leprechaun movies out of 23. I'm almost terrified to ask. I almost feel like there should be like a little bonus here where Tim can go away and make his list of 23 perfect movies. And we'll see.
I think I've probably given out more 10s than you have on the show, though. Like I wouldn't say I've given like a ton out, but I've probably done a scotch more than you.
Yeah, but more of a 10 slot than I am. That's true.
Hey, if a game recognized game, if a movie's good, I'm gonna shout it out.
Just giving 10s out. Anyone who asks for a 10. No, I don't dislike the movie. I think the movie is perfectly watchable. It has some fun ideas and fun sequences, but I think for me, it's more of a conceptually cool idea than it is execution. Sure. I don't know if the execution is really quite there for me. If it just doesn't feel, I don't know, it doesn't feel different enough from the other movies to make me really feel like it's nailing its idea. And I do prefer Scream. If we're going with the Wes Craven meta, breakdown of the genre, I feel like Scream does a better job of it. But obviously, neither of them are as good as Cabin in the Woods. Let me just make that clear right now. Cabin is king, quite frankly. But
yeah, I mean, I think I'm a little alone on this because I think most people do prefer Scream, but I actually prefer this over Scream, especially after rewatching the movies. I kind of feel a little bit, more lukewarm on them. I still like the first one, but Um, yeah, it doesn't do as much for me. But again, like I said, I'm a big Fred head, so take with that as you will. But I will agree with you on the point though that I do think maybe I give it a bit more credit because I like the idea so much. But I do agree that the execution is lacking a bit. Um, which honestly is kind of a bummer for me because I think if you did have this idea and could really like fire on all cylinders, like man, you really really have something special. But um, I get why maybe people aren't as hot on it as nowadays. But I don't know. I still like it a lot though. I wouldn't say like I watch it like all the time. Like it's not like I watch it every year, but every now and again I'll come back to it, and I'm always pretty pleasantly happy when I watch it.
Oh, that's fair. So I think it may.
And then sorry. And one other point that I do agree also, like you were saying, it doesn't really stand out like from the other movies. Like it's which I think one of the kind of like big unfortunate things is like sometimes like the homages are you can be like a little much, and like it does kind of suck that like probably the best kill in this is like literally just like a repeat of like the kill from like the first movie.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, I forgot what point I was going to make.
Sorry.
That's all right. It'll come back if it was important. But yeah, I was also going to say. I was going to say maybe what it needed was actually a different director. Maybe having Wes Craven direct this again was maybe a bad idea because ultimately it feels like a Wes Craven movie, right? It feels like his style, and. Yeah. I think me wanting a different tone to make it feel more real, and at least until it gets to the third act and maybe stuff's really falling into place where like, no, Freddy's really here, Freddy's really doing stuff. Because one of your complaints is that there maybe wasn't enough kills, and I think the reason for that is because they wanted the first half of the movies essentially is this really happening, right? Like,
right, yeah.
It's and a lot of the kills that happen are kind of a way off camera, and we don't really see a lot of them. The one big one we do see, isn't that like in depth in terms of the actual kill itself. We see a sort of an exterior of it. So that's maybe kind of an issue there in that sense. It was funny actually because we just recently did Candyman, and I feel like I feel like this movie's concept almost lends itself to kind of almost a Candyman-esque structure. Where it's about proving the myth of Freddy, and then like I'm not saying that she would be doing that, but just that kind of idea where it's Candyman appears so late in that movie by the time he actually shows up, and Freddy theoretically should do the same in this, and he kind of does to an extent, but so anyway, so I think we'll give the spoiler warning for the movie so we can get into it and talk about it. So, pardon me. So full spoilers for Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Before we start the spoiler section, though, I will give choose this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to David Short, Alison M. Fordyce, Cindy Palacios, and Tyler Hess. They're all patrons at the $20 or above tier. But you, of course, can support us for as little as $1 per month. And for that $1, you get an exclusive bonus episode of Streams After Midnight, every month. And you get that. Tim froze there for a second. I thought he'd already disconnected once, so I was worried he was going to disconnect again. At $5, of course, you get to vote once per month on some episodes, and you get every movie review a day early as part of being a patron at $5. So go and have a look and see if you're interested in keeping all the content coming. But yeah, so let's get into the movie. Wes Craven's New Nightmare. The movie starts with kind of a weird scene. It turns out to be a nightmare, but it's like we get introduced to Heather Langenkamp on a movie set. They're making a Freddy Krueger movie, and we get introduced to her husband and her son who are in this dream with her, but he's like a special effects guy. He's doing this robotic claw, which they're using to like sort of kill someone on set, and obviously we see it's killing someone, but then it sort of like shows you, oh, this is a film set, and like Wes Craven's there with his megaphone giving directions and all the rest of it. But of course the dream goes bad when the claw starts killing people for real, and Heather Langenkamp wakes up and she's all terrified, but there's an earthquake going on. It's one of these things that are ongoing throughout the movie, that there's earthquakes happening constantly, and he's like, it's just an earthquake, we're fine. And she's concerned because he's got a cut on his finger where he got cut in the dream, and He's like, it's fine, you know, you're probably half awake and you saw me get cut during the earthquake. It's not a big deal. Dreams are like that. And we find out that she's got a stalker. Seemingly, she's been getting these obscene phone calls. Someone doing a Freddy Krueger voice. So this is kind of where the movie starts, and it sets up all these things. My first comment, really, aside from her just feeling like she's already kind of on edge, like Nancy. You know, it's kind of a weird complaint to say that she already feels she's playing Nancy, but she kind of is. Like, she just feels like Nancy as opposed to Hella Linecamp. Maybe part of that is giving her a fake husband and a fake son. Not that I'm saying they should have got a real kid or anything like that if she had one, but like, you know, it separates it, right?
I thought that it didn't. I think she did marry someone that was. Maybe it wasn't a special effects. Maybe it was like a makeup person or something. But I do think she like married like someone like that in real life. But
so it wasn't like a stretch, but yeah, but you know, because he's just there to be killed off in the first 20 minutes, so it's he's not like a huge character in that sense. Anyway, the first point I wanted to make though is that she walks in on her son Dalton watching the original Nightmare on Elm Street, right? And and at first I sort of wrote it off, I was like, well, it's probably just a video, right? Because why would that be played on TV at like 9 a.m, right? What chat, especially in 1994. Okay, I buy it today. There's probably like a 24-hour like channel that would play it at 9 a.m. But in 1994, no way. 9 a.m.
I mean, I kind of got the feeling that it was like there was some force that like kept playing it or whatever, like, you know, that was, you know, some work of the demon, because later it's, you know, playing when it's unplugged or whatever. But I mean, I guess in the beginning we don't have that context, but if we go back and look at it, I don't know, you could maybe make some type of argument for that. Sure.
Well, I guess my question would be then, why does she not question it? Like, why are they playing this R-rated movie at 9 a.m? Like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think like HBO in 1994 would have been showing this at 9 a.m, right? Like, they'd have still kept it for nighttime.
No, I don't. Yeah, I think. Yeah, even like movie channels and stuff, I feel like would usually wait.
Yeah. I don't think that changed in movie channels, at least in the UK, until digital, where there was like a dedicated like horror sci-fi channel, and then that would show stuff all day that was basically, you know, that kind of thing. But so I thought it was
even in the morning though, you're probably more likely to get like a rerun of like a show or something, like like some horror show or something
lighthearted, like a Hocus Pocus or something. Like your kid-friendly horror movie. So, you know, and she's taken she's sort of like annoyed at the limo driver, because the limo drivers want to talk about Freddy Krueger, and he's bringing up kills. And it's funny because I wonder like if any of this is remotely based on Hella Lioncamp's actual personality, because I actually got kind of annoyed how she seemed to be squeamish at anyone talking about anything horror movie related, like, because he just mentions like a decapitation or whatever, and she's just like, ugh, she just looks uncomfortable, and I'm like, you were in the horror movie, like, I don't, like, I don't know, just
they make her seem like a little like you kind of want to be like, all right, take it easy, but like I mean, given the circumstances, like with everything that's going on in her life, it's perfectly reasonable that like you know, that she wouldn't want to be talking about that stuff. But again, like, they don't really give you like a ton of information about like kind of like the phone calls and stuff that she's been going through. So, and I again, like, you can probably make a case for why that's, you know, why she's maybe a little more nervous and everything. But yeah, I agree. Like, the movie's not really giving you that much to go with.
Although speaking of, you know, this being kind of a prelude to Scream, the idea of getting the phone calls.
That's true.
Just thought I'd throw that out there. But she's on like a daytime talk show, and she's been asked all these questions about being part of the franchise, and like, and I actually kind of like that she brings up like, well, you know, I was only in the first and the third one. Like, I mean, the rest of them I didn't really have anything to do with. Like, I stayed away.
Yeah.
But they're all like, oh, we got a surprise for you. Well, at first, did you think this was a weird line of questioning where he's like, you've got a son, would you let him watch your movie? And she's like, well, no, he's like 5. Like,
you know, it's a little accusatory.
Like, maybe when he's like 14, I'll you know, let him see it. But like,
It's like the way they're questioning her kind of sounds like she's like blaming her for like horror movies existing or something. Like,
yeah, like, you know, you've contributed to horror films, and horror films are the devil. Like, how dare you? But they had to pull the whole, oh, we've got a surprise for you, and then out pops Freddy, and it's just Robert Englund. I do like his line where he goes up to her and says, "We'll do lunch."
yeah.
Touch. But it's really nice to see him out of makeup afterwards, though, when they're just sort of talking casually.
Yeah. I like this kind of stuff that's like, and I wish maybe there's a little bit more of it where they're kind of like making fun of like, you know, Freddy mania, like him like running around like being like real cheesy, and then people with like signs and stuff, and like, yo,
wasn't because the way he sort of scratches his way out from behind like a screen and comes through it.
Yeah,
wasn't that something he actually did in a chat show at some point? I feel like I remember that being like an actual thing he did in a TV program at some point. I actually really like just seeing the actors sort of like talk to each other outside of character. It's really fun seeing, you know, Nancy and Freddy essentially palling around, you know, after, you know, backstage after. And obviously there's a difference here where he's like saying autographs. He seems to, you know, he's like, hey, that went well. He seems to like the attention, and you know, this is kind of like what he's made his career out of, has been Freddy Krueger. So he's quite happy with it. And she's a bit more uncomfortable and doesn't really like all the attention. So I kind of both like this part of it, but also think they go too far in other ways, where I thought it was a bit weird how John Saxon was literally like a father figure to her later in the movie.
You mean like before he's like full on?
Yeah, like before,
like the character,
like before they start becoming their characters. Like there's a like,
okay.
You know, she actually goes to the park to like talk to him about, you know, and get advice about what's going on. And I thought, are they really friends? Where she would go to him like a mentor?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like it seems like a little weird because you would think like, oh, she'd probably be friends with like, you know, the other younger cast and stuff from the movie, but I mean, I don't know. I guess you know, it's not unheard of, you know, to have like, you know, weird Hollywood types palling around. But
I mean, I'm not complaining. I mean, I like seeing John Saxon. You know, it's a great inclusion. Yeah. We joked when we did Freddy's Dead that they didn't get Johnny Depp for this movie, but he did pop in for a cameo for the sixth one, which is weird.
I could be wrong, but didn't they say that like I want to say at some point that Johnny Depp said he would have done it, but like no one like basically asked him because they thought like, well, he's too big now. Yeah,
no, I've heard that story as well. That's always been the thing, is that Johnny Depp would have been game to do it.
Which that sucks. I mean, like, hey, I'm not, you know, Johnny Depp like kind of an asshole like nowadays and everything, but it would have been cool to see him in this.
Yeah, I don't like him either, but there is something, because keep in mind this is 1994, so this is the same year that Edward Scissorhands I think came out. So there's something to be said here for Johnny Depp at this height of his superstardom, kind of showing up to play himself for a scene or something. Yeah, there's something to that in the context of the movie, but she gets a phone call about going into New Line for an interview, or not interview, but for a meeting with Bob Shea, and like, I love how the receptionist is like, do you have an appointment? Is Bob expecting you? And she's all cleavage, by the way, and the reason why I'm mentioning that is because they make a point of really sort of like showing it when she comes out to like give them like coffee or tea. The camera's just looking right down her top. I'm like, okay, I get it, the woman has cleavage, right? There's tits, I understand this movie, calm down.
See, that should have been the Lin Shaye cameo.
Quality, Tim, quality. So she's there because he wants to picture a new, he calls it like the ultimate nightmare, right? And she's like, wait, but you killed Freddy. And he's like, well, yeah, but the fans want him back, and evil never dies, isn't that right, Nancy? I mean, Heather. And it's like Wes is doing it. Wes is coming back. He's going to do the script and he's going to direct it, and you know, he's not telling us what it's about yet, but we're all very excited. And she kind of gets awkward, doesn't want to like do it, and the scene kind of ends before she has to kind of properly tell him no. But we get like pieces of this throughout the movie where she'll try to like find out what's going on. She phones Robert at one point to say, do you know what this new script is like? And he's like, nah, not really. You know, Wes is saying that he's not like going to let me see it. And I think it's interesting that there's a definite choice here where it shows you Robert Englund is like also having nightmares, and he's painting something that's like a demonic version of Freddy. And I think there's an interesting choice where you don't see Robert Englund as Robert Englund for the rest of the movie. This is the last time you see him, and it's almost like he disappears because he's becoming Freddy. Kind of thing, like on a meta level, like he's disappearing because Freddy's coming back, so they both can't exist. So I think it was like an interesting little thing there. Yeah. But when she eventually goes to see Wes, he's like, "Yeah, I'm writing that. I'm having nightmares, and I'm waking up, and I'm writing it." And Wes,
I think they say something like about like, oh, he hasn't wanted to do like horror in a long time because and then like because he only writes horror when he has nightmares or something like that.
Which, by the way, as soon as they said that line, I was like, wait a minute, I can think of like 100, like not 100, but like he literally did like a horror movie like every year for the previous decade. Sure. Like he never stopped doing horror movies. What did he do? Like he did Deadly Blessing a couple of years before this. He did.
I'm Shocker, People Under the Stairs, Serpent in the Rainbow.
Didn't he do? Did he do Prison? Was that him? What was he did?
No,
that wasn't him. Okay, he produced that though. I seem like his name was on the cover.
Sure, yeah, he might have. Yeah, might have had something to do with it.
Yeah, whatever. But he did tons of horror movies in that 10-year period. He didn't stop at all. But and he actually lays out the premise of the movie, kind of, is that he believes that Freddy, or the evil that Freddy kind of comes from, is a real thing that has been trapped by the movies, and he's becoming into the real world now because the movies have stopped, and that's why he wants to do another movie.
So like like I didn't want to mention anything, but like before, you kept referring to the thing in this as Freddy, but which is kind of like the persona it takes on, but I never thought of it as actually Freddy. Like it seems to be this other kind of ancient evil or demon or whatever that is like using this persona to kind of come into the real world or whatever.
Well, yeah, but the way he explains it though, technically it always was Freddy. Like Freddy, as we in the movie, like that was always this ancient evil. It was in the movie, so it was trapped in there.
I always thought it was the way I think is like this kind of evil that existed beforehand, and then it gets trapped in a story. But like it wasn't like it was like Freddy Krueger beforehand, like running around with like like claws and stuff. Like
I agree. It wasn't Freddy Krueger before the movies, but but it was always Freddy in the movies. According to this movie, it was all in the movies since the first one. This entity was Freddy Krueger, and now it's trying to come into the real world. And because Heather Langenkamp played Nancy, and she was the one who fought back in the first movie, now like it has to go through her. Like she is the barrier, and that's why it's targeting her son. Which, by the way, we never mentioned. We talked about acting a little bit earlier, or I think we did. I think that was in the take that didn't get cut out.
Maybe.
But the son is terrible. He's horrible. Every time he screams, he's bad. Like it's horrendous.
He's a young kid. Like give him a break.
we can do better than this though. There's young kids that are better than this little shit, right? Like there's several points in this movie where he's in danger because he's having nightmares or because he's trying to like reach God. More than that, I said in a minute. And all I could think was, yeah, go on, reach for it.
Oh Jesus!
Reach for the sky, you filthy animal. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, the husband dies. He's on his way back home because she's got another obscene Freddy phone call when she got back from the interview and the meeting, and he's on his way home. But the Freddy glove, it's the Freddy glove. I mean, the glove's there, but it's not the glove he made. But Freddy kills him in his van. He's fallen asleep at the wheel, so it looks like a car accident. But of course, we see that Freddy did kill him. Did you notice the really bad T-1000-esque effects on the chair when the glove, when the blades were coming through the chair?
Yeah, that's one of the really annoying things. Like going back and rewatching this is like the CGI special effects. Like, oh boy, they just like do not look good. Sure. And like there's not a ton of them, but there's like the instances in this are pretty bad.
Do you know what hurts about this one is that this does not need to be a digital effect.
Oh,
like,
no.
Literally all that's happening in this scene is that the car seat that he's sitting on while he's driving, the blades of the glove come up from within and then cut towards him, right? That could be a practical effect. That can literally just be you've got a chair that's built with a room underneath for someone to stick their hand with a glove and just rip through, right? But no, for some reason we get it ripples like water and it looks terrible.
And like and it's just there's a little bit of irony because it's like killing a special effects guy. Like he should know better. Like he should look down and like make a comment like, "What the hell? Like this looks terrible."
Unfortunately, I'm sure it's just an actor playing a special effects guy, not an actual special effects guy. That'd be a weird meta. That'd be a weird meta thing, though. If they actually got a special effects guy who,
like Tom Savini played.
Hey, Tom Savini's done some roles. He's acted.
Oh
before.
yeah, no, totally. No, I love him. He's great, but it just would look funny.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd buy him as the husband of Heather Langenkamp. You know, she's like in her mid-30s at this point or whatever, and he's like 50 or whatever age he is at this point.
Probably about probably.
Yeah. Yeah, this was right around From Dusk Till Dawn time. So yeah, whatever age he was in that. So
because he like Tom Savini actually like still looks pretty young, but I think he just had a birthday and it was like 70 or something. It was like insane. Like he still looks like pretty young.
I think he just dyes his hair and his beard. He's refusing to go grey for whatever reason.
But he's like in like pretty good shape though. He's like pretty muscular and.
Oh sure, he works out. Yeah. But anyway, so. My frustrations with the movie are kind of this middle section, because I like the stuff at the start where it's like the meeting with Bob Shay, the interview on TV, meeting Robert Englund, all that stuff. My frustration is when it becomes Freddy's after my son, because the son's annoying as shit, and there's so much of this middle part of the movie where it's Heather Langenkamp like screaming about her son and wanting Dalton to be safe and getting mad at people at the hospital because they're keeping her from him and suspecting that she's just going crazy.
Was it Dylan?
Dylan or Dalton? Dylan is Dylan. I said Dalton earlier. Forgive me. But like, there's so much of this that is. It reminds me of a lot of like, I don't know, stuff like The Prodigy or stuff like any of these supernatural movies.
I wouldn't go that far.
No, I don't mean entirely. I just mean the way that she's constantly having to deal with being scared for her child. And some of the way she was shrieking in fear that she wants a son, and she's starting to not trust anyone around her. But she still trusts the babysitter. Julie, the babysitter, still trusted. She's the one who ends up getting killed, like the bedroom kill in the first movie, where she's dragged up the wall of the hospital and killed on the ceiling for the son Dylan to watch in all its glory.
Which I think is a really good kill. I think it's like again, I guess I was kind of complaining earlier that it's like. Just like the same kill as the first one, but I guess it's not a bad thing, especially when you're doing a movie that is purposely like playing off stuff from other movies.
And it technically is the only real big kill of the movie. I mean, I suppose this is a good time to talk about kind of what the meta narrative is here with the son and the idea that he's scared of Freddy and he's seeing Freddy come to life. I think that the meta narrative here is the idea of like kids watching horror movies and getting scared by horror movies. And it becomes more real for them because they're young and impressionable, and so that's kind of the meta, level here. And this idea that as well as society, not all society, but like the people who are anti-horror movies thinking that they're corrupting children by these movies existing, even though clearly they're not supposed to be watching them. The
idea too of just like I think like. A lot of people getting roped into that horror niche where it's like, hey, you get the idea that like Wes and Heather and everything want to move on, but people want to keep coming back and doing this stuff.
Yeah, so it becomes this monster that keeps them contained, and it becomes this monster that's literally going after her son because she can't get away from it. Because it's all anyone wants to talk about with her. And to me, it's not like Heather Langenkamp ever did a lot of other big movies that anyone knows her from. Like, I can't name any.
I could be wrong, but I want to say like her other big thing is like maybe she was on like a soap or something, like like a daytime soap opera or something.
I'm checking right now. She's still acting apparently. She's still acting at least as of 2019 she was still acting. So that's cool. Oh god, she was in Hellraiser Judgment.
That's right.
From 2018. I didn't even realize there was one that came out in 2018. That's too many Hellraisers.
I could be wrong, but I want to say her husband directed that one.
Oh, all right, okay.
Could be wrong, but I think her husband was involved in some way in that movie.
She was in a thing called Just the 10 of Us, which is a TV show she was on for a couple of seasons.
Oh, maybe that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah. She was also on a few episodes of Growing Pains and some other stuff. Actually, what was this was all stuff in this well, that was a start of it. Those both ended in 1990, at least for her. So before the Wes Craven's New Nightmare, the last thing she did before that in 94 was a TV movie. So I guess in the movie when she said she's been doing more TV work, I guess that was true. So
Sure.
fair play. But she had a big gap. She basically skipped almost all the 2000s. There's one or two things, but she mostly skipped that decade. And even the end of the 90s had almost nothing. She was in Star Trek Into Darkness, of all things.
Okay.
And she's been quite active since then. She's been quite active in the sort of 2010s. I assume that she was like she became a mother and she wanted to spend time with her kids for like a decade.
That makes sense.
Before she went back to work. It makes sense, yeah. You see it sometimes with actors, especially actresses specifically.
Sure.
But okay. Anyway, the kid's awful, and he's constantly doing the Freddy song, and she's like, "No, stay away from my son," and yada yada. Dylan, and Dylan's acting weird. He's acting all creepy with bad acting. He's climbing up to the top of this insane jungle gym, and like to the point where her and John Saxon are like, "Oh my god, he's up there! He's going to jump!" And she has to run and grab him, and like. Just all these things, and she has like an episode at the funeral as well for the husband, where she kind of right. sees Freddy in the casket, and like at least from their perspective, I don't think she actually jumps into the casket because I thought, man, this is going to look really bad if she's actually jumping at the casket.
I think during the funeral, there's like an earthquake. And I think she kind of falls over him and bumps her head, and then she has like a dream sequence where Freddy is pulling. I think he's like pulling Dylan like into the casket, and then like kind of once he go in there, it's like this. It seems like a much like bigger, wider thing, and then I think the husband like falls on her and says something.
Yeah, I think see when I say it goes to Nightmare on Elm Street too fast, I think one of the big things of that is that right after the husband's left for the day at the start of the movie, there's like a sort of second earthquake when she's just with her son, and like 4 giant cracks appear in the wall, like Freddy's glove has slashed it, and I thought this is like the first 5 minutes. I feel like this is too early for this blatant Freddy Krueger's coming kind of tease. I don't know, like it's moments like that too early that make it feel a bit cheesy to me.
I don't know. I kind of like agree and disagree, like because I do like that stuff, but like so it doesn't bother me that it's there, but I do. I'll also kind of agree though that like maybe give it like a little bit more time to kind of set things up and gives more context and everything, but I don't know, it never really comes across as like cheesy to me though.
Honestly, see if you delete the kid out of this movie, you'd improve so much for me. If you take the kid out of this movie and make it more about her just being haunted by this thing she can't get away from, because and have it be this meta narrative that she can't get away from this one thing in her career that she's known for, I think this movie, like that's where the idea really sings to me. But having it all be about the kid and her running after the kid and chasing the kid through the traffic as he's walking across the highway, or
that part's really bad.
The visual effects are really bad. At one point you see Freddy in the clouds, and it's like really, really cheesy and cartoony looking.
Yeah. I admit, but that's like, oof. I mean, but I feel like obviously as a kid, like it didn't bother me, but watching it now, it just does not hold up. I don't know.
Were you like little Dylan? Were you watching Nightmare on Elm Street as little Dylan, like little Timmy watching his favorite Freddy Krueger? He's like Santa Claus, Hella Lion Camp says, without a hint of irony.
But I don't know. I think you're being like a little hard on him. Like I'm not gonna say he's like a great actor or anything, but he doesn't bother me in the movie. Like when I'm watching, I'm not like, oh, get this kid out of here. It's just like, I don't know. It's just part of this. It's fine.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess. But when she gets back,
isn't that the same kid from Kindergarten Cop?
I mean, sure, he didn't have to like do a serious role, and I mean, at least not to the same extent. Like, I think there's a big difference between this, where he's supposed to be like zoning out and being crazy and like obsessed stuff, versus like the comedy of Kindergarten Cop. You're right though, it was him. He's also the kid from Pet Sematary.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So Kindergarten Cop's definitely his best movie, just FYI.
Okay.
Interestingly, still working. He's got a movie listed here for 2021.
Oh, cool.
In fact, he just made a fan film that's not finished yet, but he's making a fan film this year called Dylan's New Nightmare.
Oh boy. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that. That's
I don't I don't know. I don't want to like I don't want to disparage anyone. Like, do what you want to do if it makes you happy, if you have a cool idea, whatever. But like, I don't know, when I hear these stories about like like the kid that played Georgie in the original like It miniseries, like wanting to do like a new film or something, I'm kind of like, I don't know, man, like let it go. Like it's like sad to see like someone like in their like mid 40s like dressing up like the way they were as a kid in a horror movie. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, says Tim wearing the orange t-shirt and presumably shorts that he wore when he was 6 years old. Tim looks exactly like he did as 6. He just has a beard now. That's like the only difference.
Oh yeah, but
you're
I'm
taller.
not like going out. I'm not making like I'm not like trying to raise money though for a fan film about like a character I did when I was 6.
That's a lie. He's trying to do a short film called Little Timmy.
Sure.
Colon is not stuck down a well.
Of course.
Yes. Anyway, what was I getting at? Okay, so when she gets back to the house, though, she runs back to the house. Dylan's there, but he disappears. And John Saxon shows up, but he keeps calling her Nancy. And he's like, "Why are you calling me Nancy?" And he's got like a police badge, so he's like kind of become the father figure, and he refers to her as such, and he refers to her mother going crazy, and she's got the grey streak in her hair at this point as well. So it's really set up that they're becoming their characters, and it's pretty soon after this where she kind of like she takes the sleeping pills and she dives down the bed into where Dylan's been taken, and
I just want to point out, like, I actually really like this scene because it's just like a weird creepiness to it. I feel like where like they're not really like obviously you get the gist that they're becoming like the characters and stuff, but like they're not really like fully explaining like exactly what's going on, and the characters like are kind of like baffled, but then like they kind of have no choice but to go with it. I don't know. I kind of just like that weirdness of it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that stuff as well. I mean, I didn't really emphasize that, but I do like. And I think that part.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, and I think like when this starts happening too, like you're starting to hear like the music creep in and stuff.
Oh yeah, because after John Saxon leaves, she sort of slowly turns, and you can kind of like even though I'd seen it before, I'd forgotten about it, but I kind of said in my head, "Oh, I bet it's turned into the house from the first movie now." And as she looks around, you hear them dun 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 dun, and it's like, okay, I like this stuff. This part's really good.
We forgot to mention at some point in the I think it's when she's in the hospital, someone asks her for a pass or something, and she says, "Screw your pass." It's funny.
Why did you say that like it's something we had to mention? You're like, oh, we forgot to mention this part, we have to talk about this slide.
It's funny. It's a great part.
Yeah. Also, I love how accusatory the nurse is, or the doctor is, who keeps like, "Have you been showing him your films, Miss Miss Lanningham?"
Like the nurses in this movie are like weird, like side villains. Like,
yeah, like because as soon as they're studying Dylan, like, okay, have you got a history of drug use? Because this could have something you could have passed on to him or something. It's like, no, have you shown him your films? And she really emphasizes it. And then eventually, like, when she sees her again later in the movie, Dylan actually says like a Freddy Krueger thing, and she's like, "So you have shown him your films?" And she's like, "No, he's like Santa Claus. Like every kid knows who Freddy is."
Which I think that is actually like a good point though, because like I feel like I don't know, like I knew how these people were like before I saw the movies. Like growing up, you knew.
I know some of them. I don't know if I knew who they were at like his age though, because he's like 6 in this movie.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, that may have been a bit early, but yeah.
Like once you're actually like in school and have friends that like you're talking to and stuff, I feel like that's when you become like more self-aware.
Dylan
like,
doesn't have any friends. Don't be ridiculous.
Well, I'm saying that's like when you would start to get that stuff though.
No one wants to hang out with Dylan. He's a little shit. Like everyone hates Dylan. He's the worst.
All right, well, like, I don't know about that.
He's the worst. Like, I don't approve of bullying, alright? I don't. It's a horrible thing. But if it's going to happen to someone, Dylan's like a good candidate, right? Like, there's definitely not much worse options. Anyway, but anyway, so she basically dives down the bottom of the bed where at the start of the movie, Dylan kind of, he was doing the whole thing with his little toy T-Rex, his stuffed T-Rex that he has that protects him. That's where Freddy is. Freddy comes from the bottom of the bed. So she dives down and it's like she goes down like a chute that like leads to this ridiculous like Freddy lair that's got like all these like Freddy like head statues and like openings and stuff, and it's kind of over the top. This is kind of coming back around to the cheesy Elm Street stuff again, where he's got this ridiculous set. And there's a lot of stuff here where he extends his tongue. He's like a licker from Resident Evil 2, where he extends his tongue and wraps it around her. At one point, she's like,
I do kind of want to defend it, but it is very silly. Like especially when he's like making like the noises where he's like, like.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny.
It's over top. The part I did like down here though is when he's kind of like he's trying to force her to pick a snake. He's like, "Hey, pick Dylan a new pet," and she stabs him in the eye with a snake. Like I thought that was pretty inspired.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, yeah, and of course this kind of has like a whole like Hansel and Gretel motif to it because yeah, I think they mentioned it early on in the movie. I think it's like a story. You know, she's like reading to him before bed, and then you start getting like little hints of like. Honestly, I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to say. If like the demon was also involved in that story, or if like that was the nightmare on Elm Street of its day or something. Because it kind of like they kind of come together and like enact it out in this movie, like to the point where he's leaving like sleeping pills, like breadcrumbs, and then they have to defeat him by shoving him in an oven and stuff. Which I guess is also does harken to the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Like that's how Freddy originally dies, kind of. I get that, but I'm still not exactly sure what, like why it is so Hansel and Gretel focused.
Yeah, I like it's kind of that thing where it's not really clear why what they do works to like win necessarily. It just kind of does. And the movie kind of ends with them back in the real world, and he's like, "Oh, was it just a story?" Because the Wes Craven script is there, and there's a little note of it saying, "Thanks, Heather, for playing Nancy one last time," kind of thing, and. Like she starts reading the script to him. Like, why are you reading the script? Like
that's weird. Yeah,
because he says, like, "Is it just a story?" She's like, "Yeah." It's basically to prove it. It's like, "Yeah, I'll read you the story. This is the story," and it basically starts with the movie started. It starts with that first scene, and I'm like, okay. So I mean, if the movie's about kind of proving what's a story and what isn't, I guess maybe it makes sense. But like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like, why would you read this to him, especially after he's went through this? But. I suppose if you don't take it literal, then maybe it didn't really happen, and therefore this is just to make him healthier about it, and so he knows it's a story. I don't know, but that's basically the movie. That is the
I always kind of felt like the way they're like kind of looking at the script and reading it, it almost feels like they're in a trance, and I almost kind of got the feeling like the only reason why they're doing it is because they're being controlled by the writer, and since the writer wrote in the script that it ends with them reading it, that's why they're doing it. But I don't know.
Yeah. What point is that making though? If that's just
oh shit, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fair enough. So I mean, that's basically the movie. That's New Nightmare, and I don't want to be too harsh on it because. It is inventive. It's got some ideas. It's trying something different, which I can applaud. But I don't think it actually goes different enough, and it doesn't feel like. I feel like if it was more grounded to begin with before it went a bit more crazy, maybe take out the kid. I think there's some really good ideas in here. As it is, I think it's kind of middle of the road.
I think like one of the problems is I think there's a lot of really good ideas, but kind of the issue is that there's multiple ideas here, like. Because it's like, yeah, do you want to focus on like like the family stuff, or like would it be better to focus on like the movie aspect of it? Because I feel like that's one of the things that really gets, like shortchanged here is like I want to see more stuff with Wes having to write the script, and like how Robert Englund is like dealing with it, and maybe like stuff that's going on with like pre-production of the movie, and how all that's being affected, and more stuff with like fans and that sort of thing. Like yeah, it feels like it kind of gets away with that, which again, I like all the other stuff that they do. But yeah, just maybe if it's a little more focused or something, might have worked a bit better.
Yeah, like I say, I think I love the meta stuff, and I love the idea of like this thing being a monster to Heather Langenkamp, because it's the one thing she's known
Yeah.
for, and she can't get away from it, so it sort of materializes as a real thing. Right? I love that metaphor. I just wish that's what the movie was really about, but it kind of, because of the kid,
Sure.
because of all the other stuff, it kind of, because I think that even with the movie thing itself, there's two ways to go about it. It's just Freddy attacking people in the real world, to get to her because of the metaphor that I just said, or you go down the route that the movie kind of dips its toe in, where it's kind of like acting out what the movie's going to be, and they're kind of becoming their characters. That's also a good idea, but again, it feels kind of like a separate idea almost. So it's kind of what you said. You said there was maybe a couple too many ideas that's not focusing in on. But yeah, so it's not a bad movie. It's a worthy effort, but ultimately, I would put I definitely put 4 above it. Now I always put 1 and 3 above it. That was always the case, but I think now I'd put 4 above it, and probably 2 as well.
Yeah, I'd still put this above 2. 4, I do like 4 a lot, so I'd have to think about it. But I definitely agree. Like 1 and 3, yeah, can't really beat those. But yeah, I mean, after that, this would probably be an easy 3 or 4 spot for me. I don't know, but might depend on my mood or anything. But yeah, I mean, there's just it is a bummer, because I really, really like what they're setting out to do. It just feels like they don't fully accomplish it, and yeah, that is a shame. And I especially like think this would have been a really cool like new franchise to start. Like I always thought it would be awesome if they like if this was a franchise, but every movie was like a different like horror villain, like so it's like, all right, Freddy doesn't come back, but let's see like how like how this would play out for like Friday the 13th or something, like what a Jason in the Real World or something like that. I thought that'd be like interesting.
He was after Amy Steele from Friday 2. Or what they could do is that the sequel to this could be going after the actor from Nightmare 2, and then like
sure, yeah.
And then the third one's Patricia Arquette. The fourth one's the actors from the fourth one, which actually, funnily enough, just popped up in an episode of Next Generation that me and Connor did. Yeah, it took me a while to notice it was her, but I recognized her eventually. Okay. But yeah, so yeah, there you go. That's the movie. I guess we're at the point now where we'll rate it. So definitely, as far as like final entries go, it's a very different entry in the series.
Oh sure. Yeah.
I suppose technically Jason X was as well, admittedly, but
that feels like it's a very different entry, but it feels like a more like, I don't know, stereotypical like departure, I guess.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Well, I don't know. I mean, well, I guess, yeah. I mean, we'd already had Critters and Leprechaun in space, so maybe at that point, yeah, Jason was kind of not breaking new ground, even though arguably he did it the best. Anyway, Tim, what are you rating Wes Craven's New Nightmare?
So I'm still gonna give it a pretty high rating. I still really like it. Again, I recognize there's like a lot of flaws, and again, I'm putting my own bias in, for the franchise, and for my nostalgia for it. So I'm still gonna give it an 8. I think it's really good. It works a lot for me. But I mean, I totally understand why it's not fully fleshed out, and there's plenty of stuff that's outdated at this point. It might not work for everyone, but I mean, for me, the idea is so strong and so up my alley. That I give it a lot of credit and leeway for that. But no, I still think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I obviously going a bit lower. I'm kind of conflicted because the ideas are good enough that I kind of want to give it the 6, but at the same time, I don't know if I enjoyed it to that level though. So I think I'm going to go with the 5.5. So I'm going to go with the 5.5.
Okay.
Yes, I was rudely interrupted by the Skype disconnecting noise at the end of my sentence. So I don't know how that edited together. Hopefully smoothly, but if it didn't, then I'm telling you why. Tech faults. But anyway, so yeah, that is the movie though. So we're finally done with the 7 original Nightmare movies. Obviously, we finished Jason X recently as well. So next up for these franchises, obviously we have Freddy vs Jason to talk about. So that is coming up in the next few months. And I can tell you right now that the remakes for Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street will both be coming in the October-thon this year. So we'll finally be completely done with both of these franchises in their entirety, not including TV shows, obviously, because we only do movies here. But we'll be done with those movies entirely come October. So look forward to that. But yeah, so... yeah, you can, of course, check out, other stuff we do. We have a sci-fi movie podcast called Screams After Midnight. So you can check out that. I did that with Tara.
That's a sci-fi one?
Yeah. Oh, that's Screams After Midnight? Sorry. Look, we've had a lot of tech issues today. My mind is away. Okay, Atomic Cinema Experiment was the name of the podcast I was trying to say. Forgive me. You can like and subscribe, all that usual stuff. Helps us out a lot if you do, as does get rating us and giving us a review on Apple Podcasts. And of course we mentioned patreon.com/MailFuzzTV earlier, so go and have a look at that as well. Tim's got such a smirk in his face. So what joke are you ready to crack? I can see the gears, the cogs are turning in that head of yours.
I was just thinking about a cute little video I saw with a polar bear earlier on the day.
Okay, sure.
It's just a cute little polar bear cub running around. It's very cute.
So yes, go do all that. All of it helps. But yes, that has been us, and we'll be continuing. And if you're wondering if you got a franchise to replace it, well, we're also like 4 movies into Leprechaun. We're 3 movies at least by this point into Hellraiser. So we're going to continue those franchises and hopefully
3 movies into Scream.
Yes, Scream 4 is also coming in the October-thon. There's a bunch of sequels coming in the October-thon. Lots of franchises being wrapped up before we sort of start firing through some of the other ones a bit quicker, and then finally can move on to some other stuff I've not even started yet. Like Puppet Master. We've got 10 of those to do. So that has to start at some point. So much excitement. But yes, so thank you very much for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, guys, and we will see you next time.